Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Ord. Yesterday, one of the best. I actually was thinking about it the other day. I was like, have the Braves really had any comeback wins? And this was,
signature win.
Yeah, and it feels like, right? Arizona, you come there in the middle of the year, and something crazy happens that just kind of makes you start to feel like something's coming. And I'm cautiously optimistic because I've seen this offense just go dormant, and you still got 6 games left on this road trip, and it could get ugly if you don't start scoring some runs. But it was one of those wins, man, where you come to Arizona and something crazy happens, and Eddie Rosario comes up to the plate in the 9th inning. 2 outs. I'm like, this game's over, but I'm like, God, I would just wish this was Eddie Rosario to win the game, right? I wish there was a runner on first, but he does his job. He gets the hit. I think he had 2 strikes on him at the time.
Yep.
And then Sean Murphy comes up, delivers the home run. You win the game in extra innings. You keep this momentum, this valuable momentum that we've talked about you got from the Philly series. You got 6 more games left. You're now 7.5 games back in the division after the Phillies didn't play yesterday. And you're just kind of thinking what did we say yesterday? 6 games? All of a sudden that looks possible. The Phillies play the Dodgers right now. I know they're at home, but if the Dodgers, I hate to cheer for the Dodgers, but I'm the biggest Dodgers fan in the world. All of a sudden, you take care of business. The Braves are now 4-0 against Arizona. They got 3 games left in this series. They've come from behind, and I think every single one of those games, all 4 of them. And there's something about Arizona, man. Austin Riley gets hot. Eddie Rosario comes back. He loves hitting in Arizona. Comeback wins seem to happen all the time in Arizona. I don't know why it's Arizona every year, but it seems like it's Arizona every year.
Yeah. Philly's shorthanded too against the Dodgers once again. And I think if you're the Atlanta Braves, this is the exact kind of signature win that's going to propel this club through the second half of the season. And it broke that streak that we've been talking about. Now, 1 in 27 when giving up 4 runs or more. So that was the first Braves win in 2.5 months of giving up 4 runs.
Yeah.
That's an unbelievable stat. And you can go down the list. Eddie Rosario came up big in his first game back with Atlanta this year. Sean Murphy, thank God. Maybe he'll play again tonight. That would be lovely from Snit if we could get 2 games in a row of Sean Murphy, because we need him to get going. He's a pivotal piece of this lineup. Austin Riley stays hot. We mentioned it yesterday. He's got an absurd OPS while playing the Diamondbacks, and in the month of June and July, he now has the most home runs. He just eclipsed Manny Machado for the most home runs in July since 2018 or 19, something like that. So fun little stat there. Bryce Elder turned in another good outing, and again, I don't know what Snit's watching. He's asleep at the wheel, apparently, because he shouldn't have been in that game. And typically, I wanted to preface by saying that, but typically at this juncture of the season, I'm not going to hound Snit too much. But we're in our, we're racing for the NL East. We don't need to, take him out at the first sign of trouble. But that was the second time through the order, third time coming up. We know who Bryce Elder is. He's a 4th or 5th starter at best. He struggled 3 times through the order his entire career. Let's have some semblance of, aggression or I can't think of the word from Snit here, where we need some wins now. Thank God we didn't need it. Or it didn't come back to bite us in the butt. It's all good stuff. Matt Olson not doing much with the stick. Several Gold Glove plays over the last week, so he's carrying it in a different way. It's just good stuff to see all around from the entire club, including the relief.
Yeah, it was nice to see Matt Olson, when he came over from Oakland, was a Gold Glove defensive first baseman,
and then just forgot.
He just has not been a good defensive first baseman for the Braves. But over the last week, no doubt. The play that he made yesterday, I don't even know how he made it. And at the end of the day, that's the difference in the game.
Yep.
And if that doesn't happen, right, we're having a different conversation about the same thing you just said, which is Brian Snitker not pulling Bryce Elder. The first, he was fantastic through 5 innings.
Yep.
He had the 3rd time through the order coming up. He gives up a bloop little double hit or whatever, then gives up a grounder that basically hit nearly off the plate. It was just it was unlucky stuff, right? But still, you got a fresh bullpen. We need to win this game. We need to gain some momentum. I think everybody realized that this was an important game coming off that Phillies series, especially with the Phillies not playing, just to keep things moving in the right direction. Like Brian Snitker knows that's an important game. We all know it was an important game. Like, he's not an idiot. Like, he coached, he managed it like an idiot.
Just because it worked out doesn't mean it was the right decision.
No. We're having an entirely
like Grant Holmes shouldn't have gone in there.
Well, like, I'm fine with Grant Holmes because shout out Grant Holmes. The guy's been pitching out of his mind. Like, I understand, like, he's a rookie and he's never pitched, and I'd never even heard of him before. And he looks like Kenny Powers.
He looks like he's on his last leg, and he's a rookie.
He's pitching like Kenny Powers, though. The guy's out there pitching. I actually had no problem with him because he's been kind of that kind of mop up guy in those scenarios, and he's done really well. Did a great job limiting the damage. Could have been a lot worse. Could have lost the game, and we would have all been sitting here bashing Snitker because I don't get on Snitker that much. I usually say, hey, listen, it's a 162 game season. The reason you're complaining, probably he had ulterior reasons thinking down the line, but this was not one of those situations. Like, we know what Bryce Elder is. Yeah. We know that third time through the order, a little bit of in an important game, he shouldn't be pitching.
Our bullpen was fresh. We're heading into the All-Star break. Like, everything is building up to like, let's win these last few games.
There was zero reason for him after the Corbin Carroll hit, because they were two kind of blue pits. I'm like, okay. Then you walk around and you're like, all right, time. Like, it's time. Like, you could have pulled him after the Carroll hit regardless, because you're like, I got a fresh bullpen. Let's go win this game. Bryce Elder, you did your job. Like, there's different things to this. So they should have never let Max Fried in the other day against Trey Turner, but at least that's Max freaking Fried.
Yeah.
We're talking about Bryce freaking Elder. And there's levels to this. Even if he gives up a couple of bloopy hits, it doesn't matter. You pull him from the game, especially when he's already given you 5 scoreless innings or 5 innings of 1-run baseball. So that was a terrible decision. I'm not going to bash terrible decisions in the middle of the season too much. I'm not going to be like, fire Snitker, but yeah, it was a bad decision. There's no doubt about it.
No, and even with the 3 runs, Bryce Elder had another good quality outing, and I think Braves fans may finally start to wrap their head around that Bryce Elder is never going to be more than a 5th starter, maybe a 4th starter in a bad situation. And that's good. If you could temper expectations and just say, this is our 5th starter at worst. Right now, he's our 6th starter who's just being brought up from Gwinnett to give our frontline guys more rest. So I think Braves country is starting to come around on the idea of like, let's limit expectations. Let's adjust our expectations to who's on the mound. And they've fallen tremendously for Bryce Elder. And I think, they're starting to come around on the fact that this guy is a major leaguer. He's just not he's not that first half of the All-Star guy that a lot of people thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that many people really thought how legitimate that was. I thought he was always mid-rotation, back of the rotation kind of guy. Maybe he can get back into the mid-rotation with a strings an entire year. But yeah, and to be frank, like, he just needs to be managed like that as well. Like, I just don't understand. It should be almost common practice. Like, remember Ian Anderson when he was pitching for the Atlanta Braves? Like, third time through the order, he was miserable. And playoff time comes. I'm not saying you want to manage every game like a playoff game, because you can't do that over 162 games. It didn't matter if he was no-hitting the Houston Astros. When that third time through the order came through, he was coming out of the ballgame. And that needs to be the same thing with Bryce Elder at every single start. Like, if he gives up a base runner, I don't care if he has 0 runs. If he's in the 6th inning or later, he's done his job. Like, if you're in the 3rd or 4th inning and you're giving up a few runs, maybe you let him wear one, right? You don't want to just blow out your bullpen. But in this particular scenario where he's already gotten you your 15 outs, like, he's done his job. Like, and that needs to be every single start. Bryce Elder toes the rubber. Oh, you got me 15 outs. Next sign of trouble, you're out of the game. It's really that simple. That's why I think a lot of Braves fans, and we all should be like saying, hey, Snit, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, there's no logical reason for him to still be out there. Luckily, it worked out, and we're talking about the happy things, but you're right. And the last thing I'm going to say before we go to break, something about Arizona. I'm telling you, for some reason this series, I had this weird gut feeling that if they can keep this momentum going, the NL East is going to be within reach.